You know what the best thing about summer break was? More cartoons, obviously. As if it would be anything else. I mean, think about it. In the UK, you get 6 weeks away from the world of education, and you have 4, maybe 5 TV channels that primarily feature cartoons. What could be better? But one thing you'd see increasingly during summer holidays would be cartoon movies. Normally, you'd be lucky if you saw one movie a week, courtesy of the Cartoon Theatre.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain seated as tonight's feature is about to begin, brought to you by Cartoon Theatre.
But in the summer, you could see an animated movie every day. You could just be watching Billy and Mandy, and all of a sudden you'd see a promo for Dexter's Laboratory Ego Trip or the Powerpuff Girls movie. Or if you're on Toonami, you could see something for Pokemon or Dragon Ball. If you venture towards the Disney channels, you get Recess School's Out, Kim Possible: A Stitch in Time, or maybe a new Pixar movie, whatever you're in the mood for. It could be Tom and Jerry in cars, a weird giant robot from space, a horde of illegal genetic experiments swarming Hawaii, or how about that new Scooby-Doo movie? I've heard the monsters are actually real in this one. The possibilities were endless. In my eye, the best movies you could see in those days were Looney Tunes movies. You grow up watching them on Cartoon Network, you expand the love to a few VHS tapes and the occasional crappy basketball movie. You solidify that love in DVD form, and at that point, if you see a promo for something like Daffy Duck's Quackbusters, you won't be able to say no. Just make sure you have a spare VHS tape for it, and for the love of God, don't accidentally tape over it. As I said earlier, if you tape over an analog recording, there's no going back from that. I know you might like the talking trains, but you're taping over a good movie here, you stupid fucking imbecile. Okay, let's focus on what I do have. We've already done Daffy Duck's Fantastic Island. So what about Tweety's High-Flying Adventure? I have 2 copies of it. It's good. Next. What we have left is 3 movies relating to Bugs Bunny. The Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie, the Looney Bugs Bunny movie, and Bugs Bunny's 1001 Rabbit Tales. So that's 2 recordable tapes, 1 retail, 2 movies in the 1980s, 1 movie in the 1970s, 2 directed by Friz Freleng, 1 directed by Chuck Jones, 2 released in the same DVD set, and 1 released as a standalone. We'll do them chronologically, starting with the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie. Now, what must be said about Looney Tunes movies made in the 1970s and 80s is that none of them are truly movies. If we're being technical, they're just compilations with new animated segments bridging a series of cartoons, and these 3 movies are of no exception. As the opening titles would suggest, this movie is basically Chase the Movie, and it features Bugs Bunny hosting a series of cartoons featuring himself and the Roadrunner. After a Star Wars spoof, some bits with a caveman and some live-action slapstick comedies. As for the cartoon shorts included, you get 11 shorts, all directed by Chuck Jones, featuring many Looney Tunes characters such as Marvin the Martian, Daffy Duck, Elmer Fudd and Pepe Le Pew. Not all of them feature a chase, but most of them are still entertaining. I'm not the biggest fan of the skunk, and I'd rather have Rabbit of Seville over What's Opera Doc, but there we go. In reality, this is more Chuck Jones the movie than the Chase movie. Bugs may be in the new in-between segments, but he's not necessarily in every short. And for the second character in the title, you don't even see Roadrunner until the last 20 minutes, at which point you get bombarded with a mass load of Roadrunner clips. So if you like 18 straight minutes of Wile E. Coyote suffering, there you go. So with all that in mind, I give the Chuck Jones movie a 4 out of 5. There are a few shorts I don't really care for, but it features my favourite Bugs Bunny short. It has debatably the best short Jones ever directed. And of course, you get
Wabbit season! Duck season! Wabbit season! Duck season! Wabbit season! Duck season!
So if you're interested in the best years of Chuck Jones's time at Termite Terrace, this will probably suffice. Next, the Looney Bugs Bunny movie. Jesus, that's a lot of Looney. Apparently I got this one super cheap. $2.99 for a sweet deal. So after a reminder of Bugs' 50th anniversary with a god-awful voice and a showing of the award-winning Nighty Night Bugs, we get into it. An opening sequence with live-action comedy segments similar to the last movie, and a brief history of Looney Tunes before we're introduced to Yosemite Sam, easily the best character ever created by director Friz Freleng. The Looney Bugs Bunny movie is basically an anthology film, broken up into 3 acts with different characters taking centre stage. Act 1, Satan's Waiting, basically a remake of the classic short Devil's Feud Cake, opens with Sam courting Granny in order to rip off her recently inherited $50 million. If you know Yosemite Sam shorts, you know where this is going. Bugs drops a safe on him and suddenly Sam's in hell, where the devil and his angry demon dogs await. The devil will only let him return to Earth if he can find someone to replace him in hell, and as it just so happens, Sam knows just the fella for this. The devil sends him back to Earth multiple times as a legion guard in ancient Rome, an Arab in the desert with a stupid camel, and as a cowboy in the Old West. Apparently the devil has the power of time travel. Okay, sure. Each time, Sam fails, returns to hell, and the devil sends him back as a different persona, until eventually Sam tells the devil to go fuck himself and go get the rabbit himself, while he stays in hell. The concept is a bit ridiculous and far-fetched, but whatever. It's Looney Tunes, and you get some fun Yosemite Sam shorts, so it's fine. Act 2, The Unmentionables, is a spoof of the gangster films of the 1930s and 40s. Basically, you get 3 cartoons featuring the iconic crook, Rocky. Bugs becomes a detective, gets kidnapped and fights against the gangsters. They escape justice, hatch evil plans involving Daffy Duck and Golden Eggs, and a kidnapping plot involving Sylvester and Tweety. Shoehorn in a few new scenes involving Bugs arresting the bad guys after each short, and you've got what amounts to a trilogy of gangster B-movies that just happen to feature cartoon characters. It's silly and goofy, but a lot of fun. Finally, Act 3, the Oswald Awards, which is apparently an awards show created by Friz Freleng. Oh super, first we had the Chuck Jones movie, now we have the Friz Freleng movie. This act basically spoofs the standard film and TV awards show. Loads of characters arrive at the venue, some are nominated for an award, in this case the Oswald, during which 3 cartoons for each nominee is shown. Bugs wins the award, Daffy gets pissed off, challenges Bugs to a showdown for the award, eventually resulting in Bugs donating the award to Daffy after the duck explodes himself. I didn't care for some of the cartoons in this act, nor am I much of an award show viewer, but Bugs going against Daffy at the end was entertaining. Overall, I don't know if it's as entertaining as the last movie, but it's more original. So let's give it an equal score of 4 out of 5. Finally, we have Bugs Bunny's 1001 Rabbit Tales, again directed by Friz Freleng. Bugs and Daffy start as booksellers. Whoever sells the most wins an undisclosed prize. Awesome. What isn't so awesome is the first 20 minutes. Don't get me wrong, the cartoons are good as always.
Take one step on that rope and I'll cut it.
But they have almost nothing to do with the story. They're in there to pad out the story to get it over an hour. Daffy takes shelter in Porky Pig's house, posing as a taxidermied duck, and briefly faces off against Elmer Fudd. Bugs pretends to be the child of 2 apes before reuniting with Daffy in the desert. Daffy steals a jewel, they separate again, and we finally get to the actual story. Bugs arrives at Yosemite Sam's palace and is held hostage by Sam. The Sultan gives him an offer: read stories to his spoiled son or be boiled in oil. Obviously not a fan of the latter, Bugs decides to begrudgingly read 1001 fairy tales to Prince Abadabba. And that's where the classic cartoons come in, taking the form of fairy tales, such as Jack and the Beanstalk, Hansel and Gretel, and Red Riding Hood. In the end, the movie has a great concept for a story. Unfortunately, the first 20 minutes hold it back with entertaining shorts that don't really amount to much in the overall feature. Out of the three, this movie is probably the most Bugs Bunny centered. Bugs is constantly at the center of the plot for the last 50 minutes, and Daffy has almost nothing to do with it. Cut out Daffy the first 20 minutes and add in a few more fairy tales, and this could easily be a 5. As it is, I give it a generous 4 out of 5. Interesting storyline, held back by a padded runtime, but it can still be entertaining for fans of the tunes. Honestly, when you get right down to it, none of these movies are bad. The story and cartoon choices are hit and miss, but there's still entertainment value throughout. I mean, think of how hard it can be to turn Looney Tunes into a soulless cash grab with almost no redeeming qualities whatsoever. Oh wait,